Welcome to the Breeding and Reproduction Village. My name is Donna Berry and I have Stephen Butler here beside me as well. So I'm going to talk for 10 minutes, 5 minutes questions. What we'll do is just what Stephen is doing there now. One of us will slip to the side and you can ask us one-on-one. There's also sun cream up there. It's getting very warm. It's definitely getting very warm up here. I'm not sure what it's like down there, but look, there's sun cream there. Stay safe and use it anyway. So those of you that have been coming to Moorepark Open Days for the past 20 years have probably heard me rambling on about EBI for the past 20 years, and now it's nice time to look back and see what has actually achieved with this economic breeding index over the past 20 years, right? And that's my first graph. So the red line here is the EBI, the economic breeding index, a tool that we're using for selecting bulls and cows that are deemed to be the most profitable animals. We launched in the year 2000, and look, all hands up, nothing really happened for the first 5 years as farmers were getting used to this technology. Remember, it was changing from the old RBI, which was production-based solely, and we were introducing this fertility component to it. We had Gene Ireland, which is the national breeding program, started in the year 2005, and after that is where we really started to see the genetic gain. That was further accelerated by the use of this genomic technology, this DNA technology. I'll talk about that in a second again, back in the year 2009. At the moment, so at the bottom of this axis, I have the year of first calving. Right? I like this metric. Some people use year of birth, but not all the calves that are born actually enter your herd. Some people use the year of calving, but then in an expanding environment, you tend to keep some of your older cows. So it kind of massages the message a bit. So year of first calving of the heifers, it's going at around €11 per year. Right? So if you look at that over the past 20 years, even accounting for the stagnant part at the start, the EBI of our herd, of our heifers calving this year is €143 higher than what it was at the introduction of the EBI. Again, I'll talk a little bit about this in a while, but €1 increase in herd EBI equates to €2 increase in profitability per lactation. So our cows, or our heifers today, are €286 more profitable than what they were 20 years ago, based on the same milk price and everything like that, right? Now, going around doing discussion groups, a lot of what I hear about is, sure, that's all coming from fertility and we're breeding milk out of cows. It's all for high fertility bulls. There's nothing but high fertility bulls on the top of the active bull list. Completely untrue. That's why I showed you these two lines. The green is the fertility subindex of these heifers and the blue is the milk production subindex of these heifers. They're running parallel with each other, going at around €4.5 per year. So it's not all necessarily coming from fertility or from solids. It's actually sustainable genetic gain in a balanced way. We're producing a very balanced animal, right? That all sounds fine. And again, I hear a lot of people say, fertility in Holsteins, it's all solved. Look at the next generation herd, everything. We just need to drive on now with milk production or health or maintenance or something like that. Our fertility target, and again, I'll talk about it in a second, our fertility target under good management is a fertility subindex of around €100. Look at the graph. Nationally, we're around 50. We're going at around €4.5, €5 per year. So we're at least, if we stay the course, which is fine, if we stay the course, we're around 10 years away of actually achieving a fertility subindex of around €100, which should give us our targets, our fertility targets that we've set out for a seasonal calving system, right? Another question that I'm often asked is about this whole genomics, this DNA technology, right? So we launched in the year 2009, and an important question, so we looked at it, was we went back to those years when we launched genomics, and we said, right, what did we say that the EBI of those bulls were with their genomics? What would we have said they were without the genomics? And now what are they today with thousands of progeny? What we can clearly see, and there's a lot more details on this within the village, is that the genomic technology is 16 to 35% more accurate than the old technology. So yes, there are bulls that go up and down, because if you look at the statistics of the genomic bulls, they're not 100% reliability, right? They're around 58-60% reliability. They will still move, but the extent to which they move is less than what it was before, right? I always get the phone call, of course, when the bull drops. I never get a phone call when the bull goes up, right? So people only really recognize the bad one for the bulls drop down. The other important point about EBI, economic breeding index, is, as the name suggests, it's economic. And you've heard for the last two boards, and you're going to be sick of hearing it for the rest of the boards, it's all about now environment as well as profit, right, and well-being. If we look at what the carbon efficiency of the modern cow on EBI, to what it was prior to EBI, the modern cow is producing 14% less carbon per kilogram of milk solids. And we didn't even have to select for it. So the intensity is what we call it. The methane intensity of these animals is far superior than what it was heretofore, right? So not only is the economic breeding index improving the profit of the system, it's improving the environmental footprint of the system, and it's also improving animal welfare. If you look at the next generation herd, the cows are noticeably in higher body condition score. They're on a scale of 1 to 5, they're on a scale of 1.16 higher body condition score units throughout lactation, right? Having said all that, I don't want this to come across as a negative message, is there's massive gains yet to be achieved Right? You look at the fertility subindex here, 50 euros. I say we need to be at 100 fertility subindex. We're 10 years genetic gain away off that. Something I often hear as well is, the EBI of our herd, or the top bulls is 300 euros at the moment. Sure, it has to stop at some stage. There is no notion, no sign whatsoever of a deceleration in genetic gain. And based on genetics theory, if we look at other species, there is no reason why we should be able to slow down in genetic gain. So there is massive gains that we must achieve, but that we can achieve in EBI in a balanced way. So that's all genetics, right? So if we actually look at the performance on the ground, is it just national data? Looking at some of the metrics, so submission rate is in green, 6-week calving rate, heifers and bulls, or heifers and cows is in red, blue is 6-week in calf rate, and black is pregnancy rate to first service. A few points to take from that. Firstly, everything is going better, right? As geneticists, we're often deemed to be arrogant, right? And we are a little bit arrogant, but it's not all due to genetics, of course. There is improvements in management running concurrently with this. But things are getting better. But the other important point, and again, I don't want this to be a negative thing, is we're still off the mark. Look at our submission rates today on average, 80%. Our target should be 90%. The rate that we're going is probably 1% per year. So again, it's just re-emphasizing the point that we're probably around 10 years off where we want to be if we stay the course, which is, again, is fine, because look, we are making massive gains. There's no reason why we should not stay the course, okay? The next point I want to talk about is the next generation herd, and again, there's a lot more information on the next generation herd and the people running the trial over in one of the villages. What we have here, these are all black and white cows, which we purchased off computers with DNA technology. Right? So identified the animals as heifers, DNA tested them, and then purchased them based on that. Brought them into Moorepark. The elite animals on average are 214 euros EBI, the top 1% of cows in Ireland, and they're run alongside the national average of 110 euros in EBI. Right? I'm only showing you a little snippet of the information, but the things I want you to focus on is this fertility subindex value of 100 euros. Remember I said that's what our target should be, and maybe if there's only one point that you should take away from the board today, it's that target of 100 euros fertility subindex. Go home, look at your herd plus, where are you today? We're going around 5 euros a year, work out how long is it going to take you to do that. If you're not happy with that, you're going to have to put more aggressive selection on fertility subindex. Right? If you look at some of the top bulls in the active bull list, around 100 euros fertility subindex. So this notion that all the EBI of bulls and the active bulls are coming from fertility is complete rubbish, right? We actually need higher fertility bulls on the fertility subindex within the EBI. But look, that all aside, with a fertility subindex of 100, we're getting 73% in calf rate in 6 weeks, which is achieving our target. From a profit perspective, you can see it on a hectare. You divide that by 2.75 cows per hectare. That equates to around 200 euros more profit per cow. The difference in EBI of those animals is 100 euros. So again, it's re-emphasizing the point. If we look at the next generation herd, or if we look at profit monitor data, it's a €2 improvement in profit per lactation per €1 unit increase in herd EBI, right? Everything I've talked about here before is all based on black and whites. Of course, based every single piece of evidence that we have here to date from either control studies in Moorepark, Clonakilty, or analysis of national databases, there still is a clear evidence of crossbreeding, especially in the average EBI herds. Right? A lot of this benefit, again, you would have probably heard it from Donal, is from an improved stocking rates and improved milk solids perspective. But again, you still look at Clonakilty, even though the milk solids subindex and the fertility, or the milk solids and the fertility performance per cow is the same for the black and whites as it is for the F1 crossbred, there is still a benefit for improved efficiency through greater stocking rates. And that leads on nicely into the sex semen. So this is some of the research that Stephen Butler has been carried out for the past 2 years on around 150 herds, where the cows were selected to be more receptive probably to good fertility. So they were younger cows on average and were at least 50 days calved by the time of insemination. They were inseminated based on expressed AI or expressed estrus or timed AI. What we could see on those herds was, on average, with conventional semen, the conception rate was 60%. And on sex semen, it was around 50%. So what we call a relative conception rate of around 85% for sex semen. Right? Now, we know damn well that there's massive variability amongst herds in conventional semen. But a point to note is that variability is actually larger when it comes to sex semen. So if you want to embark on the sex semen road, you need to get all your ducks in a row. Make sure the fertility subindex of your herd is good. Make sure your management is good. Ideally on cows that are younger and not freshly calved cows to maximize your conception rate for sex semen. At the end of the day, what it all boils down to when you think about how much sex semen will I use, it comes down to, well, how many heifers do you want calving down in 2 years' time? So if you're a 100 cow herd, you're probably going to want around 20 heifers calving down in 2 years' time if you're not expanding. You probably therefore need around 25 heifer calves born if you count for mortality and some bit of pre-selection at the virgin stage. So to generate those 25 heifers, on average, with that conception rate of 60%, you want to use 83 conventional semen straws. That'll give you, on average, your 25 female heifer, or your heifer dairy, and 25 male dairy. The other option, and of course it doesn't have to be one or the other option is to go down the sex route, in which case you'd need to use around 56 sex semen straws. That'll also give you your 25 female heifers, assuming a conception rate of 50%. Also remember, sex semen does not guarantee you a female. It's only a 90% chance that you're going to have a female. So even when you do that, you will end up with 25 dairy females, but you'll still also, on average, have around 3 male dairy calves as well. That also then, if you use the sex semen route, allows you to use beef semen. So 27 beef semen straws, and again, based on the conception rates, you should end up with around 17 beef calves. That then poses a new question, well, what beef bull do I use to generate these beef calves? And that is what has prompted us to introduce what we call the Dairy Beef Index. We introduced this with ICBF this year. It's an index with a dual objective. The objectives are to produce a quality calf, which the beef industry wants, but not to the detriment of the cow or the female. So that the dairy female goes back into milk straight away, starts cycling, conceives very early post-calving, and doesn't have any health issues. So this is the construction of the Dairy Beef Index. The colours here represent the individual traits, and this is the emphasis. So what you can see is the vast majority, in fact around 56% of the emphasis in the Dairy Beef Index is on calving. Right? It's crucial to get the calf out alive. I've never seen anybody to date sell a dead calf. Right? So you want to get an easy calving bull, right? The cow then goes straight back into milk, cycling, bulling, and insemination. Calving date, you would have heard it from the likes of Lawrence Porrick and Donal and Brendan. Calving date, crucially important. Gestation length, the big driver of that. Gestation length is really heritable. It's around 40% heritable. So a short gestation length bull will on average have short gestation length calves. Right? So again, you can see around 8% of the emphasis. So in fact, around 64, 2/3 of the emphasis in the Dairy Beef Index is for the dairy farmer. Is to get that calf out alive with no repercussions on the cow. The remaining bit then is for the beef sector. Good carcass quality, ability to hit the specs of 270 kilograms and an O equals, and also good feed intake and efficiency. Right. If we look at what has happened over the past few years, so obviously we launched the Dairy Beef Index this year, but we look at what kind of bulls farmers chose over the past few years, dairy farmers chose over the past 4 years, and the Dairy Beef Index of those animals, they didn't have it, but looking at it, it was dropping year on year. This year, after the introduction of this index, it jumped by around €10. So we are seeing a good adoption of this, despite it just being early days, right? We are seeing a massive adoption. And look, there's a lot of work to be done here from a breeding program perspective. There are some bulls at the top of that list that are difficult enough calving, superior quality carcasses, but what I want at the top of that list is really easy calving bulls of excellent quality, carcass quality, right? And if I look at our 20-year history of doing this from the EBI, I can tell you most certainly we will be able to achieve that, and we'll be able to achieve it a lot faster when it comes to the Dairy Beef Index. So ladies and gentlemen, just to take home messages, hopefully from the first section you'll fully agree with me that, look, the EBI certainly is increasing quite considerably over the past few decades. It is delivering profit. We can clearly see that from the next generation herd or from the analysis of the national database. But also as the fertility performance of our herd, as we get higher 6-week in calf rates, etc., to dairy semen, there's a massive opportunity there when it comes to beef to increase the revenue and profit of the beef herd. How we can achieve that is through this Dairy Beef Index, is selecting these bulls, easy calving, short gestation, but also produce superior quality carcasses, and those bulls are out there. So that's all I have to say. We can take 5 minutes of questions until the next board comes, and Stephen will be here as well to answer any questions, especially those related to sex, semen and fertility. So is there any questions? Yep. So, so the question is, Stephen, why are we not using more higher EBI bulls in sex semen?
Yeah, okay, good question. And there's a chicken and egg situation with sex semen in Ireland. So you want the best EBI bulls, but the AI companies are faced with the fact that nobody's using sex semen. Sex semen is a niche product here. Nobody's really using a lot of sex semen. And if you want to set up a sex semen lab in Ireland, there has to be a fairly large amount of demand in place for them to be able to meet the contract that they would have to sign for that lab to be set up. So for them to set up the lab, there needs to be demand. You won't provide the demand until the best bulls are available. So I think, you know, when people need to look at those figures and say, would I go with sex semen at those figures? At the moment, on average, sex semen is still a poorer fertility product than conventional. It's less reliable than conventional. So with that knowledge, are you going to be able to take it on and use it as a strategy to generate your replacement females? And I think there's ways to do it. There's management aspects that you can implement that will let you achieve those kind of results in terms of selecting the best animals, maybe incorporating synchronization so that you're going to use your sex semen right around the very start of the breeding season. And if the cows don't go in calf, they're getting bred again, the repeats, by day 18 to 24 of the breeding season. So they have 2 chances to go in calf in 21 days rather than 2. But your initial question, why aren't there more? It's because of the demand side of the equation it's too low. So the demand has to increase before there's going to be the best bulls available. If there's a sex semen lab in the country, obviously you get as big a team as you want, and the best bulls can be available sorted as well.
Yep. Any other questions? Yep.
Considering the EBI of the elite herd is so good and the fertility sub-index is very good, and the last one tells us that 90% should be a target 6-week calf rate, why is the 6-week calf rate so low?
6-week calving rate.
Yeah, I think what their target is a 6-week calving rate, which includes heifers. So that will equate to a 6-week calving rate, yeah. Spot on, that.